everybody and welcome to Amphlett Reviews. Well, it is that time folks, 2020 is almost at its end, Christmas is next week and the new year is the week after. Absolutely insane year. I'm looking forward to when it's over and done with. I think most people are. The UK at the moment is under a lot more restricted lockdown with the tier system all the way from tier 1 over to tier 4. Travel restrictions, there's a new case of COVID, strain kind of thing going on at the moment. Cinemas did open briefly for different parts of the country in the UK. Wonder Woman 1984 is a film I managed to see. Very luckily managed to sneak in there, but it looks like it's my official last film for the year. There's no more coming out, there's nothing new major release. It is coming out in the US, HBO MAX, and I think there might be some sort of VOD kind of service, maybe in the UK, maybe in a few weeks after, hopefully so, for people that do want to watch it and spend time with their families. So, last film of this year, the official last film. The DC Cinematic Universe continues with Wonder Woman 1984. Is it good? Is it bad? Let's find out. Let's talk about Wonder Woman 1984. Wonder Woman 1984 is the sequel and the continuation of the Wonder Woman character from the DC Cinematic Universe, directed by Patty Jenkins. It's recently been released in the UK under a very limited theatrical release. Depending on what tier you're in, you'll be able to watch this film. So last official film in the cinemas of 2020, what do we think of Wonder Woman 1984? Well, this is probably the most disappointing film I've seen all year. At least one of them anyway. Oh my god, Wonder Woman, what the hell happened? As you can tell, I'm not a fan of this film. This was really disappointing. As my friend put it very perfectly, went from a mediocre film to trash very quickly. And for a film to do that within a 2-hour and 25-minute release window, I think roughly the film's length is, I mean, damn. I mean, wow. Yeah, I was actually quite looking forward to watching this film as well. I had kind of mid expectations, Wonder Woman's character through the DC Cinematic Universe has been quite interesting for me. The whole DC Cinematic Universe in general has been quite interesting in terms of an evolution of change and ideas and kind of, the mood of it kind of thing. I like Man of Steel, of course. I think Batman v Superman is massively underrated, and I think that film is awesome. But that's for another video. And Wonder Woman's first introduction was in that movie. I thought she was kick-ass. I thought she was a great addition to the team in terms of just kind of throwing that character in there, changing the dynamic between Superman and Batman. I didn't know much about the character. I knew she was in a TV series with Linda Carter, which was massively popular. I knew she had similar powers and she was practically a god like Superman was. But I never really saw an on-screen appearance until Batman v Superman, and I thought she was absolutely fucking awesome. She was really kick-ass, and that kind of small, limited, extended cameo was really perfect to kind of introduce that character in the world of the DC Cinematic Universe, which is perfect. Cut to, a couple of years later, 2017, we got the first Wonder Woman solo movie. When I first watched it, I didn't particularly like it. I thought there was a lot of problems with that film in terms of just the story and the kind of forced messages, and the film basically is Chris Pine the movie featuring Wonder Woman. I've said that, and even on a second review of it before watching the sequel, I stick to by that kind of thing. Chris Pine carries that entire film. You've got a really established actor who really knows how to bring this character to life, really knows how to bring the weight and the drama, and add something to this world. I love the backdrop of World War One. I think Chris Pine's character works so well in that world in terms of his mission, in terms of his goal set, in terms of stopping the war. And Wonder Woman is the kind of fish out of the water kind of character. She's very naive. She's very kind of stubborn. Approach to kind of dealing with the problems of the world. And the film, there is something there. I think on a second viewing, the idea of kind of having a belief and having hope, fighting for justice, kind of thing, and trying to be the better person, be the better version of yourself in a world of corruption in a sense, and it's not all down to one person's fault kind of thing. That kind of naivety is kind of what kind of annoyed me about the character a little bit, and I think it overplayed and overstayed well all the way to the last 10 minutes of the film for the character to realise this kind of points and kind of what Steve Trevor was trying to say about the world of man kind of thing. Flawed movie, definitely flawed. Its message is not quite nailed on the head. It's very kind of preachy and a bit forced, and it doesn't quite earn its moments, but there is enough there in terms of the story, in terms of the backdrop. And Justice League, we're still waiting to get a release for. That's been, what, 3-4 years delayed. Yep, so looking forward to seeing that next year, March of 2021, HBO MAX. Yeah, the 4-hour version. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with the characters and Wonder Woman and everyone else. So yeah. You can tell that she's got a lot of history. There's a lot of background we don't know about her character. Obviously, she's kind of been hiding and kind of been doing a lot of stuff within that kind of, 40 year gap in between the World War I to the kind of present Batman v Superman, where she was still hiding from mankind in a sense. Just kind of get where she was, at the end of Batman v Superman, to kind of see where that all leads up to. I think it's an interesting kind of plot point. I think it makes for an interesting movie. And keeping in mind also, the kind of established Superman, Batman, all these kind of characters are not really out there yet. How is the character going to work in public? How is she going to get around that? All interesting ideas. The trailer came out. I was quite curious. I like the 80s vibe idea. It's overplayed. Movies, TV shows use it way too much now. But I don't mind as long as it's effective, as long as it adds a bit of fun to the film. Now, cut to the actual film itself, and the problems become very clear very early on. This film has some major story issues, it has some pacing issues, it has editing issues. It is all over the place in terms of a cohesive kind of 3-act structure movie. And you can mess with a 3-act structure, you can alter and have a bit of fun, and you can do what you want. But when the film is literally, scraping its knuckles on the ground, and you're there in the cinema thinking, when's this film going to actually kick in? When's it going to get to the next bit? It starts to test your patience for sure. This film has a lot of undeveloped kind of characters, underdeveloped kind of storylines, and it kind of is a bit of a mess in terms of the actual final product. This is a 2-hour and 25-minute film, 35-minute film, and my God, you feel it. I mean, wow. The first act of the film, I swear, is about 1 hour and 20 minutes. It is stuck in that kind of first act kind of structure with setting up the characters, setting up the villains, doing kind of comedic, kind of funny moments, and that's all well and good. You can do that within the first kind of portion of the film to kind of establish where these characters are and establish the stakes of the film. But when it's literally going on and going on and going on, you're thinking, wow, I haven't seen Wonder Woman in quite some time in this film. Actually, fucking Wonder Woman in this film. What is going on? What is happening? Basically, Wonder Woman's character, Diana Prince, she's been doing what she does best. She's been kind of undercover. She's been taking out criminals in the shadows. She's been kind of learning about kind of her history, kind of the Greek gods, mankind's history, and kind of putting her talents, putting her skill sets to use, because she knows language, she knows history, because she's lived it, kind of thing in that sense. And you can tell early part of the film, she has had a life. She has got married before, maybe she had a kid. Through the pictures that we did see, one thing in life that she always wanted was that second chance with Trevor, because obviously that was wrongfully ended from the events of the last movie. He comes back to life through various kind of mystical, magical ways, and she kind of accepts it. She just kind of straight up accepts it. Doesn't care about what happened. Well, why is this? And she just goes for it. In the film, first act, the first hour and 20 minutes or plus, I would say, is dealing with their relationship. And the idea of this is actually really good. I actually really like it. And I think the opposite of him having the fish out of the water, him being in the 80s, having those kind of costumes, those kind of references, are good. They can be well handled, and they can really help the film and really boost Wonder Woman's character up. I think this could have been a really good opportunity to kind of show how much she's grown as a person in this kind of 30 year gap in between, kind of have a resolution between their relationship, how it brought to the end of the last movie. And one of the reasons I think it doesn't work is, one, Gal Gadot, she can't act very well. Her acting range is in a very specific box, and you can tell that the script is kind of compensating for her limited range. I think Patty Jenkins is also at fault for not pushing the actress to kind of hit those emotional walls. You've got a reunion character, you've got this kind of bond, this kind of love story in a sense, and when you don't really care, you're not invested, you're not connecting with them, and when the most emotional scenes of the film between those two is just a fireworks sequence in a plane, that's not good. When I want to see an actual emotion, characters talking to each other, characters interacting or kind of having fun, I want to see that relationship blossom. I want to see that kind of really develop on screen, and that was a problem with the first film as well. At least they were smart enough to kind of use that kind of awkward kind of naivety to the charm of the film, in the sense, and her actions, the way she went about things, bounced off quite well with Trevor because he was the leading kind of story driver in a sense of that film. This time around, Gavatol is the story driver, and she's not pushing the story forward. She's not engaging the audience with that emotional connection. This sequel kind of proves straight up that Gavatol's acting abilities is extremely limited, and she struggles to kind of connect myself anyway, and I think with a few other people, with the emotion on screen, with the dialogue, with the kind of scene itself. The scenes don't work. And that's a problem. When the scenes don't work, and I'm not invested, I'm not connecting with what's going on. Finally, when the film remembers to be a Wonder Woman movie, it actually presents an action sequence in the kind of foreign kind of desert lands. It's really poor. And most of the action scenes in this film actually are not well handled, are not well done. You don't really get another major action sequence until close to the end of the film. Our two villain characters are very similar kind of dynamic with the idea of the wish and trying to be better than themselves and trying to take the easy way out in terms of the themes of the film. Cheetah's character, I think, is absolutely badass in the comics and in the Justice games. Here, it's a complete and utter fucking waste. I'm saying it straight up. They messed up Cheetah big time. I think the approach could have worked, and there's a good idea there. Kirsten Wiig plays the character, and very typical kind of 80s kind of stereotype kind of fashion. Very baggy clothes, glasses, nerds. No one likes her. People forget about her. She wants to be beautiful, and she makes that wish to be beautiful and strong and be epic and all that kind of stuff. And there was a transformation with that character, and there is something there. And Kirsten Wiig kind of tries. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. She does try. I think the script massively underplays her character, and kind of her screen time in the film is just not enough, or it's too stretched out. If anything, overdrawn, stretched out, kind of forgettable villain, and that's the problem. You've got a really kick-ass, awesome villain character here that could have been used a lot more. I think she should have become Cheetah way earlier into the film. I think dealing with that kind of relationship drama going on, I think having a character become her, maybe she's taking out criminals herself, maybe she's inspired by Diana, Wonder Woman's kind of strength and that kind of idea, and she wants to become sort of a hero character herself, and then she becomes a villain because she's losing her humanity for the wish kind of. Our second main villain character is Max Lord, I believe, played by the Mandalorian himself, which is great. He's actually pretty good in the film. He actually does try. The early part of the film, during that kind of first hour and 20 minutes with a lot going on in terms of all these characters kind of exploring their kind of dynamic in a sense, what was going on, their kind of dilemma in a sense of, they're being affected by the wish, air quote wishes. His arc is pretty interesting. He's a bit of a con man, a bit of a cheesy kind of TV reality star that wants to have that image of success. He's got a son that he's trying to impress. He wants to do well. His intentions are good. His character is pretty funny. He's pretty charming. He's pretty wacky, and I like him. I like the scenes that he's in, and I think he does add a bit of weight to the films in terms of the action chops for sure. He definitely couldn't sell the character, he can sell the scene, and I think he does try. I think he honestly gives a good performance for the most part. I think when the film starts to get into that kind of goofy kind of villain, typical villain being sick and having that bloodshot eye, and his face is moulding off, and he's just kind of limping and stuff, and he's just kind of demanding wishes left, right, and centre, and it gets way too much. His character arc is so over bloated, and it's so ridiculously stupid. It becomes too much. Where the character was somewhat interesting during that kind of a really overlong kind of first act, goes in that state line, then kind of falls flat straight on its head. They also introduced in this film this brand new armor that's kind of related to kind of time back in the Amazons, in the sense it's kind of ancient armor kind of thing. I think they could have used the armor to kind of establish, when she was getting weaker, powers are not as strong as they once were. Maybe she's getting her ass kicked by Cheetah, which she did during the kind of the presidential kind of White House sequence. I think she could have used it much earlier on in the film to kind of help her get around, maybe to flying, in terms of giving that extra strength. And then she kind of has to kind of realize, regain her powers, regain her strength to kind of take on the bad guys later on. I think that could have been a really good arc. When she does actually finally use it in the film, it just kind of comes out of nowhere. She kind of just randomly gets it. She has a brief fight scene with Cheetah, and then she takes it off, and it's never used again. Wow, what a waste. What a build-up, eh? Going back to my first point, what this film tries to do, very poorly I might add, is this idea of accepting defeat and not taking the easy way out, and rising to the challenge in a sense, taking on your fears, taking on your problems head on, and making that change, and not just relying on a wish or a kind of a series of circumstances to make it so. You know, you are the person, you are the hero in that sense. The film tries to direct those kind of ideas and those messages, but it's so convoluted, it's so messy, it's so unearned, and that is the biggest thing I want to say about the film. The film does not earn anything. It earns absolutely nothing. And then when it finally gets to the second act and the somewhat third towards it, obviously the world's going a bit crazy. Max Lord is kind of taking, you know, control of everything. He's taking power and money and influence and that kind of stuff. And finally Wonder Woman comes to her senses. You know, she has to kind of accept her limitations, which I think, you know, there's potential to really explore that, but they don't do that. They just kind of meander. They just kind of drag it out. And then she has to kind of, you know, let Trevor go to regain her strength, regain her powers. And it's really poorly handled. Just like the introduction to the character coming back was poorly handled. Him leaving also was poorly handled, unearned, and not well done. And they play out this kind of big epic scene where she's kind of in the sky, she's kind of like floating like Superman does. And they do an insulting thing and ripping off the score, John Murphy's score from Sunshine and Kick-Ass, you know, that epic, awesome theme that was used very effectively, very well done in both those two movies. And they decide to rip that track, place it in there with Wonder Woman's so-called emotional arc, her kind of revolution of, you know, of letting go her love. The film has really pissed me off already. They're using that track already for an emotional way. When you have to use a track to rely on your emotion, to manipulate the audience for emotion, you've lost me completely. You know, it's not earned. It's not built up well. Being the fact it's not even like, you know, John Murphy's kind of score. It's Hans Zimmer. So what the fuck's going on there? Why are they ripping off other people's kind of track? And finally, when the film decides to get to a third act and actually go have a showdown between our two main villain characters, the fight between her and Cheetah, absolutely awful, terribly put together, awfully filmed, awful CGI. The kind of metal armor suit that she kind of gets was complete waste. It's just there for a show, it's there for a poster. When she finally gets into the room, she tries to use some of her abilities, some of her powers. It doesn't work, obviously, because Max Lord at this point, he's practically God mode. He's practically invincible, taking every single wish around the world he wants. And she decides to defeat Max Lord by convincing him and the world itself with the lasso of truth, and do this giant, like, 10-15 minute monologue speech about, you know, accepting, you know, your defeat and kind of rising to the challenge and not letting fear take over you and not taking the easy way. Well, you know, the films of the theme was trying to sprinkle in there, and it is one, poorly executed. It's poorly delivered by Gal Gadot. She really cannot sell that scene. She really cannot, and she does not earn it. And once again, my biggest thing, the film does not earn a single fucking thing. It does not earn it. And to add insult to injury to this kind of 10-minute monologue sequence about kind of patronising the world, they use the Beautiful Light track from Batman v Superman. Final slap on the face. You've lost the movie. Use the track once again to manipulate emotion from the audience, to help Gal Gadot sell this scene, to sell this idea of hope and peace. Not earned, not satisfying, really patronising.
Are you sure? 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 Are you sure?
And then the film very quickly wraps up. As you probably can tell, Wonder Woman 1984 completely failed in every single sense of the word. This film has so much potential to be something quite interesting and to add an interesting arc to kind of Wonder Woman's journey. I like Wonder Woman's character. I don't mind Gal Gadot to a certain extent, but her acting chops, her kind of range does not work with the script, does not work with what the film was trying to do. It's kind of forced ideas, forced messages are not earned, are not well done, not developed enough. Everything is half-cooked, half-baked in this film, and it even gets to a point where it has to rip up other tracks, other films to kind of get an emotional connection out of you, and that is not good. That is not fair, and that kind of just straight up pisses me off. Biggest letdown, biggest disappointment. Wonder Woman 1984 doesn't deliver, and I'm left with probably one of the worst films, one of the worst cinema experiences I've seen all year. really insulting, not well handled, and yeah, I just kind of leaves a sour taste in my mouth. So that's my thoughts and opinions on Wonder Woman 1984. What did you think of the film, guys? Do you like it? Please comment down below. What do you think of the DC Cinematic Universe at the moment? Are you liking it? Are you getting much out of it? What's your favourite one? What's your worst one? It's a very hot topic, all these films and the current lineup. In case I don't see you guys, have a Merry Christmas, have a Happy New Year, stay safe, and hopefully we'll come out in 2021 with much stronger. Until next time, guys, Amphlett Reviews, signing out.